Three, two, one. Hello,
It's live.
everybody. It's
Washer.
Trisha, a washer. Yeah, great. Uh, with me, as always, is my fabulous business partner, Larry Lever. And today we're going to talk about electric vehicle charging stations. Because we foresee that with Tesla Motors and the awesome things that Elon Musk and his team in his company are working on, with the electric cars, these things are hitting the road and there's a huge demand for the technology. So we see that there's going to be a huge disruption in the way that we fuel our vehicles. If they're running on electricity, it's going to require a special kind of fueling station, something like a gas station, but really disruptive to oil companies and their profits, as well as disruptive to our own daily transportation needs. I'm not too up on the subject. Larry's going to go into great detail on what is going on. Some of these charging stations have been opening up in the U.S. I'm not aware of any that are online in Canada as of yet. However, as electric vehicles become more popular, and like I say, the demand is huge, there will be a necessity to kind of transition from gas stations to these electric charging stations. So I'm going to turn it over to my awesome partner, Larry, and he's going to describe exactly what's going on, because he's actually been researching Elon Musk. He's a little bit obsessed, I must say, with Elon Musk. I know more details about Elon Musk than I really ever wanted to know. But he's quite a fascinating guy and very successful, and so I'm super proud that Larry has decided to model him in his own way. So what can you tell us, Larry, about what Tesla Motors is doing as far as charging stations?
Well, as you know, I get daily updates, news updates from PV Magazine and other sources, solar power sources, different types of magazines, and so I'm able to decipher all the news. And actually, as a businessman, an entrepreneur, I have the ability to foresee a lot of things that are coming down the pike before a lot of people even know about them. And it's true, I definitely have a great deal amount of respect for Elon Musk for all his businesses and what he is planning in the future. I think I've deducted a lot of the plans for electric vehicles. Now, you know, electric vehicles, a lot of people have mixed feelings towards them, especially in our region in Alberta. There's a lot of people that are doing everything they can to put them down because of the industry here, and the industry is oil and gas. So a lot of people that are involved with that entire infrastructure don't want anything to do with electric vehicles. However, the world is thinking differently than the province of Alberta and Western Canada, although we have the second largest oil deposit here. It's funny, I heard on the radio that there was some kind of commercial that said we have centuries of this resource available to us. It's going to last us for centuries, which I guess that's media coverage for you. And wishful thinking is what it is. It's a non-renewable resource, and when it runs out, it's gone. So although these people that are involved with the oil and gas industry, they want to keep going for centuries, it's not going to happen. We already know that. We heard the news reports. I've been involved with the oil and gas industry with different companies for most of my adult life, and I was involved with a lot of the work that the Suncor and Syncrude companies were both doing up in the oil sands when it started. And anyhow, they are pumping it out.
Down here in Florida, they call it tar sands.
Yeah, it's a bad word. I learned that when in the business I used that term once, and because I live here, I had to stop using that term. It's called oil sands. Anyhow, the plans that they had and their forecasting and all that was has been constantly changing, and I think a lot of that is due to the amount of energy that's required to extract the oil from the sands. It's quite costly to do that, and costly I mean by using oil and gas in order to extract it. We all know that it takes 2 barrels of oil to produce 1 barrel of oil from the oil sands. So that's the centuries that they're talking about in these commercials. I think they're actually focused on how much is available there. So the faster they pump it out, the quicker it disappears. It's just common sense.
So I just want to let everybody know, if you're watching this and you're somewhere else in the world and you're not familiar with the oil sands, there is on YouTube, you're watching this on YouTube, so after we're finished up the hangout, I want you to punch into your search Petropolis. It's like a take on Metropolis, but instead spelled with a P, like Petro. And that it's just it's aerial footage of the oil sand, tar sand operation, and there's no commentary or comment on it. It just virtually shows you exactly what's going on there, and it is literally strip mining. And it's really bad for our environment. I heard a story from Ronald McDonald House in Edmonton, Alberta, and in Ronald McDonald House they had a map of Alberta, and when the kids that came in, well, not kids, but the families that came in because their kids were in the hospital, many of them with different types of cancer. When the families would come to Ronald McDonald House, they would put pins on the map to show where they were from, because Edmonton has a really good cancer facility, and the Stollery Hospital, the pediatric clinic at the University of Alberta Hospital, has it's like the best place for kids with cancer in Canada, as far as I know, or at least in Western Canada. And so anyway, at the Ronald McDonald House, they had the families put pins on the map to show where in Alberta they were coming from. And they had so many people coming from the Fort McMurray area and Athabasca north of Fort McMurray, and all the pins were going in the same place that my mom told me they took the map down. So, and there's been studies that have shown that the cancer rates in the area where they're virtually strip mining to extract this oil from the sand is a lot higher than the general population in the province. So I just wanted to add that comment. So if you can kind of bring it around to how these electric vehicle charging stations are going to disrupt what's going on with the oil sands. That'd be awesome, Larry.
I was actually trying to get to that point. So the reason I was explaining about this change that's happening with the electric vehicles, there's a lot of people don't believe that it's happening locally. And that's simply because the region that we live in has got a lot of oil and gas. So getting to the topic of solar power and electric vehicles and these supercharging stations. Now, I was mentioning Elon Musk. There's a lot of other companies that are also doing work similar to Tesla and the associated companies that Tesla is involved with. When you break things down to real the basic building blocks of this new industry, you got to come up with an electric vehicle. Now they've done that. They have a lot of vehicles that are all electric, and there's a lot of different ways these vehicles are running. Most recent information I have is on the new Kia Soul, which is a new EV that just got released in September this year. It is a different, kind of a different take on electric vehicle. Everybody knows that Kias are quite an affordable car. And when they first entered the car market, a lot of people thought they were cheap and they weren't going to last. Well, the truth of the matter is, because they're inexpensive, they weren't quite cheap as far as the terminology goes regarding manufacturing. So they've come up with a new EV as well. And so you've got that as your main building block for transportation. Now, how they're going to be charging these vehicles, if you look at Elon Musk and Tesla and the new gigafactory that is planned for the battery manufacturing, I think that's where the infrastructure is going to start pointing in that direction, simply because you can have a lot of different, if you compare it to gas-powered vehicles, you can have a whole bunch of different vehicles with combustion engines, but they all have to have some kind of fuel to run on. Every single one of them runs on an oil and gas related product to make it go. So what's going to be happening here with these supercharging stations is you basically, well, even now they have some that you pull into your supercharging station, you plug in your EV, your electric vehicle, and it charges it up. It takes about 30 minutes to get you back on the road. Now, I think what's going to be happening here is, because if you were to make comparisons like apples to apples, being oil and gas fuel and electricity as a fuel, they're two fuel sources, right? So with the oil and gas fuel source, the infrastructure is already there. The electricity fuel source for electric vehicles is still in its infancy, much like the solar industry in North America. So we have this, we're going to be seeing this massive change take place. And I was informed of this change a long time ago when I worked for a company called Investors Group, where we got a lot of inside information on where the economy was going, and mutual funds and things like that, where people were wanting to put their money. Well, that shift is now taking place, and the people with lots of money, your capitalists, are now looking at electric, solar, alternative fuel businesses and infrastructures, actually, to put their money. So with these electric vehicles, a lot of that's the charging is more than likely going to be photovoltaic based. Possibly wind power is going to play a part, but I think because it's a vehicle that runs on electricity in comparison to oil and gas is like one thing. Electricity, we have learned we can make electricity by using oil and gas, by using the wind, by using water, by using solar, and there are also other ways of producing electricity. So it's going to be a huge infrastructure to power a lot of these vehicles, because there's so many options, so many clean options available to us and to business people. Although these businesses are starting to come on stream now, it's still a slow turning. It takes a while for everything to take effect. Now, if you look at the company Tesla, just to update, if people aren't really up to speed with what this company does, is they produce a car that goes twice as far as pretty much twice as the distance on a charge in comparison to a lot of other vehicles. So they're really in the forefront as far as technology goes. Now, and you look at the people behind Tesla, not just Elon Musk, but people involved with the company. Recently, I was studying some of the other things that the industry is starting to do, and Elon Musk has been in talks with a company called Han Energy, and they're a very big China corporation that is also run by I can't remember his name. I think his last name is Lee, but I'm not sure. I'm kind of guessing. But he's also a billionaire who's also running a company in China that is strictly a clean technology business. They're involved with mainly hydroelectric. However, they've recently started buying up a lot of thin solar panel companies, manufacturers. There's three of them that were recently purchased by Han Energy, and I think what the strategy is, because Elon Musk is talking to the people of Han Energy and all these other players, is that they're going to be looking at using thin film solar technology in order to charge electric vehicles. Uh, Getting to what this hangout is about tonight is this whole business of charging electric vehicles. What is the best practical way to do this? Now, I think what turns a lot of people off about driving an electric vehicle is
I know what it is. Waiting 30 minutes for it to charge, it takes less than a minute to fill your gas tank.
Well, it takes about 5 minutes. I timed it out. You know, when you pull up to the pump and you start pumping your fuel, a lot of vehicles take a lot of fuel. A lot of different gas stations have some have quick pumps that pump the gas quickly, and those pumps don't always work with smaller vehicles. I drive a smaller vehicle with a smaller gas tank. It's quite fuel efficient.
But yeah, definitely what I've there it is. But what I've learned from being a business owner is that people say time is money. No, 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 no. Time is far, far, far more valuable than money. And the thing about it is that you can lose all your money and go and make more, but when you spend time, you never get it back. It's gone forever.
Right, and I think that's what it's going to boil down to with the EV business, is that when you pull into a gas station, I think what's going to turn people on is that you'll be able to pull into a fueling station, we'll call it, to get your electricity and get back on the road. Now, if you can do that in maybe a minute, I think that's going to turn a lot of people on. So I've done some thinking on this subject as an inventor, and I discussed it with some family members that told me that it already exists. I haven't been able to find it, but I'm going to share it with everyone because I feel this is a technology that I could, at this point in time, I could probably put it all on paper and talk to the patent agent and start filing more patents for technology. However, I think it's something that could be shared with the rest of the world, and that's and if people are seeing this and they know that this technology exists already, please let us know, because I don't think a lot of people know it. But what I'm talking about is this idea of being able to pull into a charging station with an electric vehicle, and rather than plug your car into something, to be able to actually have your battery replaced by a charged battery, just like kids do with their toys. When they're little electric cars are running around, the battery wears down, they can pop the batteries out and put in fresh batteries, and away they go. They can keep playing with their toy. I think that's exactly what...
I think about those DeWalt drills, and they usually come with 2 battery packs, so one sitting there charged.
So I think that's what's going to definitely happen, is that with all the activity going on with Tesla Motors, with the battery gigafactory, there's sufficient resources to put rechargeable batteries in electric vehicles, in all electric vehicles right now. So that's not the issue. I think what's going on with the new Tesla Gigafactory, or I'm not even sure if that's what it's going to be called, but it's a battery factory producing lithium-ion batteries in Nevada, and they're going to start doing this in 2016. This is the project that's backed by Elon Musk. The whole thing, Panasonic's involved, and I imagine Han Energy has got a role being played in it as well. But I think their goal is to produce batteries in a way, rechargeable batteries, in a way that they could be considered, like I was saying, apples to apples. The oil and gas would be compared to a massive supply of rechargeable batteries. So instead of going into a gas station and fueling up a tank of gas into your vehicle, let's look at that for a moment. When you're fueling up your gas, it's coming from a big giant tank that's underground that gets filled frequently by trucks, these big tanker trucks. They keep that gas tank underneath really full of fuel. So you pull in, you put your fuel in, and off you go with your gasoline. Now with these batteries, as they start producing the lithium ion or whatever technology they plan on working with, lithium ion is the one that they're talking about. However, I have a feeling that the LiPo or lithium polymer batteries are going to start be of a greater interest because they're much lighter in weight. They are kind of tricky to work with. I don't know if one is safer, one technology is safer than the other. But the truth of the matter is they're a lighter battery. So what I think that is going to eventually, what we're going to see within the next 5 years is at these charging stations, you're not going to pull in and charge up your car for 30 minutes. Nobody really wants to do that. Turn that down, please. And I think what people are going to want to do is they're going to pull in to a charging station. Some sort of robotic system is going to reach into the bottom of their vehicle, pop a battery out, and replace it with a fresh battery so that you're on the road quite quickly. And the reason I make it sound so simple as comparing this concept to a child's toy, like a little electric car that runs on a battery. You pop the batteries out, pop the new ones in, and away the toy goes. Is that with cars, you got to remember the cars get dirty on the streets, in the country they get dusty and stuff. So I think the infrastructure is going to be more than just pulling into a gas station. It's going to be more like the old-fashioned service station where attendants would come out and they'd check your oil, check your tires, all the things that they used to do back in the olden days when cars were relatively new. This is going to start happening with the electric vehicle market, because when a vehicle pulls in to have its battery changed, more than likely, because it's an electrical part, you got to make sure things are clean. There's going to be some kind of washing bay that has to clean up the vehicle before it gets its battery changed. And this is not a real major deal. Like, we have car washes at a lot of gas stations already. However, I think this would be a more sophisticated cleaning system. Clean up the car nice and good so that whatever holds the battery in place can be cleaned and easily worked on. The vehicle then pulls into what would be your filling station, and it pops robotics of some sort, pops the battery out. You pull it coasts you ahead somehow, gives your car a little push, and another robotic pops a fresh battery in, or some sort of robotic process would be utilized in that system so that the battery is taken out, replaced with a fresh battery. Now, what I think is going to be really interesting about this type of station is that it's going to all be powered by the sun. These charging stations are already being charged by these solar panels that Tesla Motors is involved with. I think it's called Solar City, is another company that's owned by Elon Musk, and that company is also involved with solar panels and that type of technology. So there'll be these new types of solar or service stations that are powered using sunlight, and as these batteries get changed out, it'll be a stocked item. So the batteries, when they're changed in and changed out, you don't really do that with oil and gas or a gas-powered vehicle. When you pull in, you fill up your car with gas and off you go, and then you're burning it off, it's polluting the atmosphere. Those service station like that selling gasoline and fuel, that type of fuel, fossil fuel product, has to be replaced by these trucks, by these big tankers. With this battery system, that's not going to have to be the case, because the sun will have enough power to charge all these batteries. As they're popped out, they go into a charger, just like you recharge your rechargeable batteries right now with a little wall unit like Duracell type brand, where you plug it in and it charges your rechargeable batteries until they're ready to go again. I think that's really where this whole technology is headed in the next 5 years, maybe less, because as we know, it seems like the Chinese, when they get this type of idea, and I hope the Chinese are watching this hangout and their industry, because this is for them as well and for the world. This information is, if they want to get started on this concept, more power to them, because it's going to benefit us all in the long run. And like I say, it's all going to be charged by the sun. That means more people will be able to. I'm going to go buy an electric vehicle. Why? Because I don't even have to pump my gas. I'm in there for less than a minute, more than likely, because robots work pretty fast, and the cleaning's not going to take a lot of work either. Because you got to remember, the electric vehicle, it's not burning anything. So when it's zipping around and running through mud puddles and stuff like that, it's not a heck of a lot different than a bicycle, because a bicycle doesn't burn any fuel. It doesn't get that sticky, oily residue and all the crud that sticks to the bottom of most gas-powered vehicles. Because why? Because it doesn't burn anything. It's just getting dirty from Mother Nature's dirt, which is really easy to clean up.
On that note, before we start slagging the oil companies anymore, I just want to point out that the oil industry is not going anywhere. They produce so many useful products. For those of you that don't know, almost everything made of plastic is a petroleum product. Well, everything made of any kind of plastic is a petroleum product, from the hardware of your electronics to pen, toothbrush, you name it. And so that being said, the oil companies are not going anywhere. This plan for electric vehicles and charging stations may cut into their profits a bit. However, I always like to talk about how the amazing thing about the plastics that are produced from oil products is that they can be recycled over and over and over again. So I don't really want oil companies to go away. However, I think it's very important, being that it's a non-renewable resource, that we start using it more responsibly and stop burning it. Because when you burn oil, one, it's gone forever, can't recycle it once it's burnt, and two, it's poison. Whenever you light anything on fire, there's carbon monoxide, which is deadly to humans, and a carcinogen, which is why if you leave your car running in the garage, you'll asphyxiate. So that being said, oil companies, we don't want you to go anywhere. We love you. However, we want to work with you to start using your products more responsibly and stop burning them, because it is polluting and it's a bit of a problem. So with that being said, I definitely
didn't mean to imply that they would disappear. I didn't mean to imply that with what I was saying, because I do understand there's the whole point I'm trying to make is that, like you said, by burning it, it's gone, and it's also creating carbon monoxide and other nasties. So we definitely do oil products.
We just want them to alter their method of operation. And so definitely for me as a consumer, the thought of buying an electric car has been, it's rather expensive, and then being in Canada, there's not a lot of opportunity or options to be able to charge an electric vehicle in a way that is environmentally friendly, being that our electricity in Alberta currently basically all comes from coal burning of coal. So which it's, you know, not really a benefit to go electric when your electricity is coming from coal-fired power plants.
That's not the case though. It actually, they made a comparison between burning fuel in a vehicle and using electricity made by fossil fuels, it's 30% is what you're using to charge a vehicle rather than 100% going into burning a vehicle. That study has already been done.
Okay, well, the bigger issue as a consumer, the cost is definitely, a lot of consumers, that's their number one sticking point is with the cost. However, what you're talking about would create convenience that doesn't really exist yet, being that you have to stop driving and plug in for 30 minutes and able to continue on your journey. Most people are not going to go for that. So what you're talking about, a system where rather than charging your battery, you just swap, just like the drills and the toys you're talking about. You just swap the dead battery for the new battery, and then they're all charged there, waiting for the next customer. That is pretty sexy, and that would be a big motivating factor for me personally wanting to invest in an electric car. However, in Canada, especially where we live, I think it's a little ways in the future, but I know the charging stations that exist are mostly in California. Is that correct?
No, this technology, this new Kia Soul vehicle is for sale in Canada, and the charging system for the vehicle, no cost. It's free. And you plug it into your wall outlet of just like plugging your car when it's cold, you do the same thing, except it's also not just keeping your cars warm to start up when it's 30 or 40 below, it's also charging the batteries.
Or is the Soul a hybrid or it's full electric?
This is a brand new vehicle. I haven't even talked to you about it yet because I just discovered it. I think it was through Solar Thermal magazine. So it hit the market. There wasn't a lot of news about this vehicle either. So I did some investigating, and the Kia Soul EV is actually using not lithium ions. They're using LiPo batteries. These are the same batteries they're a plastic battery. They're made out of plastic, and they're used in a lot of radio-controlled aircraft and light air vehicles like the drones and things like that.
The Power Wheels battery, and they use them in those scooters that the elderly zip around on, right? Those ones?
No, these are much newer. Those batteries are more than likely lithium ion, like a laptop battery. They're actually heavier.
Okay. Interesting.
The LiPo battery is plastic battery, and it's very lightweight, and that's what is going to make the Kia Soul a lot different. That's why I said during my discussion on this topic that I'm not 100% sure that this new battery gigafactory is going to be producing lithium ions. I don't think that's their goal. I think the press is reporting that, and possibly Elon Musk is letting that out there. But I know that the LiPo batteries are a far better battery because they're not as heavy.
So with the lithium polymer battery in this Kia Soul vehicle, I've seen them. They kind of look like your little car a little bit, kind of squarish, a little rounder than yours. But do they still require the 30-minute charge time or something like that? Probably.
Oh, definitely.
See, that's an issue.
Well, charging all these different all these different types of batteries, they have that long charging time. I don't see them being able to get around that charging time.
Right, but if you replaced the dead battery with a fresh battery and left it behind to charge, that totally eliminates the problem. And as a consumer, like I said, I am not willing to stop in the middle of my trip and hang out for 30 minutes waiting for a battery to charge when I can go buy a gas-burning car and just keep on going. Stop at the gas station for 5 minutes instead of 30
Yeah.
minutes and just keep trucking.
Yeah,
So if your idea plays out in the marketplace, electric vehicles will be everywhere, and gas stations may very well become a thing of the past. Although the oil companies that supply the gas stations will still be around making us plastic for many years to come.
Picture this. All your refineries that are producing oil and gas, imagine those producing different types of batteries, rechargeable batteries. All those refineries could do that. It's a simple shift in infrastructure. It's just a different product.
Cool. Super exciting. I see there's so many problems in the world, and what I've been learning via this community that I'm involved with, and the reason that I'm here in Orlando right now, is that with every problem is an opportunity for a solution. If you can find a problem and come up with a solution, you have a business. So basically, with what Larry has just described here on the Hangout, someone could pick that up and run with it and literally create a multi-million-dollar business out of thin air with just the simple idea of switching the batteries out. I don't know if they're thinking about this, because I definitely know that that 30-minute charge time is it's a drawback on the whole plight of the electric vehicle coming into the mainstream of society. It's just not going to be mainstream with this 30-minute charge time. So your idea to get around it is absolutely amazing, and I think that if somebody else doesn't jump on it when we get our product to market, then it will be very easy to move forward with this on our own if somebody else doesn't do it before it. I prefer somebody else go ahead and do it before us, because it will take a lot of work and effort, I believe, to create this system that you have in mind, and DOE, which we will have. But it's super exciting. And what we want to do is, it'd be fine if somebody else created the battery exchange system, but where we want to come in is we want to replace the PV panels that are currently charging the electric cars. We want to replace it with our technology, which is more efficient and less expensive than these.
No, we're using PV technology in our design, so we have to keep that technology there. Just keep in mind, we're using heat and light. We just haven't incorporated the PVs into our design yet because we're still prototyping our design. But that's going to be part, because the PVs only work with light.
Right, but my point is that we will be able to provide them more bang for their buck, shall we say, as far as making the power to charge the batteries. So that's where we want to play it. If you want to know more about how we plan to make more power to charge these batteries than what's currently being made with the PVs, you can visit our website at kingSSS.ca. I'll put a link in the description once the Hangout goes to recording, and you can check out how we plan to do that. But yeah,
we're not the only company that's going to be doing it. There's a lot of other companies, I'm sure, are thinking along the same lines as us, trying to develop the new products that use both heat and light. We know there's a lot of activity at MIT and Sandia Labs in the U.S. A lot of work is going on right now in using heat and light to make electricity, not just the light.
However, I would like to point out that from everything that you've shown me and told me, all of these other companies that are generating electricity via heat and light, they're using very expensive processes that do not necessarily give the bang for the buck that people are looking for. And I know that our whole mission has been to make the heat and electricity as efficient and inexpensive as possible. And most companies have well-educated engineers, and they are trained to make it complicated and expensive. And everything that you've shown me and told me about as far as solar power goes, everything that I've seen in Germany, Texas, at the trade shows, in the trade journals, all of it is complicated and expensive. What we're doing is simple and cheap. So
Yeah,
check it out.
I don't know how well educated those engineers are.
No, they're trained in a certain way, and they have this kind of prestige in their, they have that paper that says, I'm an engineer and I can sign things. Piece of paper on the wall or whatever it is that says, I'm an engineer, and they have this training that kind of keeps them at this technical level where your average person, it goes over your head and you don't understand what they're talking about. It's super complicated and it's always expensive. I know, even from my experience talking, I was so excited about meeting engineers and talking to them about what you've created, and I was so disappointed because almost every single engineer that I talked to made suggestions that would, one, make our product more expensive, and two, make it way too complicated. And I believe in the KISS theory, which is keep it simple, superstar. And that's basically what we've strived for. Efficiency and inexpensiveness have been our total focus since we started this, mainly out of necessity, that we aren't technically trained, so it has to be simple for us to be able to work with it. And also, we don't have big corporate backers, so we've had to do everything inexpensively as possible. So it's kind of been a lovely marriage of efficiency and inexpensiveness that we've been forced to follow. And at MIT, they have deep pockets, they have highly technically skilled people working, and everything that I see coming out of there, this craziness that they've got going on, I don't understand what's going on, but I can tell by looking at it, it costs a lot of money. And so that's not what people are interested in. People are interested in saving money. It's crazy. Most people are more interested in saving money than making money. I don't get it, but anyway, that is what the general public cares about. They want to save money, and they want something simple that they can understand. The mainstream of society does not connect with, like myself. I'm fairly mainstream, and I don't connect with this technical jargon that engineers come up with. It's complicated. It's not understandable, and they take pride in being able to talk. Not all of them, there's exceptions, but as a rule, the engineers that I've talked to have taken a lot of pride in being able to talk over your head and to express themselves in a way that if you're not trained as an engineer, you don't understand. The average person will not understand. So, not that we all have to understand everything. Like, no one really understands how electricity works, but we know when we turn the switch on, the light comes on. That's all we really need to know. However, I think that people are more connected to things that they understand. And what I've seen going on at MIT, I don't even know what they're doing. You have a better grasp on it, but I don't know what they're doing. But like I said, just by looking at what you've shown me, I can tell it costs a lot of money. So maybe you can describe what they're doing and how it will contribute to the electric vehicle charging stations?
Well, I think what they're doing is similar to what we're doing, and a lot of other businesses and organizations are working towards. There's a lot of things that have to be developed. But I was going to, excuse me, I was going to say while you were talking there that a lot of people don't understand how their car works. It boils down to something we were talking about before you left, was that the way a combustion engine works, if it wasn't for electricity, the combustion engine wouldn't work. So it's just funny how that took off the way it took off with Henry Ford and all the other automakers back then. But we shouldn't forget that the reason a combustion engine runs and why you have a car is because of a spark plug that makes a spark. And that's pretty simple. So why does your car work? Because it makes a spark. Pretty much.
Because of the battery.
Yeah, it could be made by other means as well.
It could be, but the spark comes from the battery. That's why when your battery goes dead, your car doesn't start. There's no spark.
That's right. Exactly. I don't think there's many cars out there without batteries or a supercapacitor.
Earlier I recommended checking out Petropolis. Also, for anybody out there that hasn't seen, there's actually 2 movies about the electric car. It was Who Killed the Electric Car, and then I think it was like Who Killed the Electric Car Part 2. I don't know what the Part 2 is called, but I think you can still find those on YouTube or Netflix or somewhere. I highly recommend watching them, and it's a really eye-opener as to the amount of power that, I don't know if it's so much the oil companies, but the car manufacturers had a lot of power in designing vehicles that were heavy on the fuel consumption. And because of the 2008 crisis and what happened with the restructuring of GM, I don't think that those car manufacturers have that same power that they once had. So they're at a point where they're no longer able to suppress the desire for electric vehicles, as well as they're not really in a position to create these big gas-guzzling SUVs and trucks that they've been designing in the past, because it's not what the consumer wants. The consumer is that, and that's kind of why they got into so much trouble in the first place, is because everybody was buying Japanese and European imports that were compact, fuel-efficient vehicles, and they lasted longer, and I don't know that the quality was better, but they seemed like it was just what people wanted, and Chrysler and GM and even Ford to an extent were not providing that to the market, and so they ended up with this surplus of these big SUVs that nobody wanted to buy. And yeah,
so getting back to the topic though of these solar charging stations, you mentioned these battery pack drills and things, power tools that run off a battery pack. That's a very good comparison, because believe it or not, they actually have solar chargers now available for those wireless power tools. So if you're working on a job site, you can buy photovoltaics and charge these things up. And you can probably even charge them up if it's in a windy place. You can set up a little wind generator too. It's just amazing how simplistic the situation really is to solve, a lot of environmental problems. It's a very simple solution.
That's so convenient too, because on a lot of construction sites and job sites, they're not wired yet, and so a lot of times you see these construction companies, they rent generators and burn diesel in order to power their tools and stuff while they're doing construction, because when you start construction on a site, usually the utilities are not there yet. So that's got to be super convenient for construction people to use that. But
Well,
yeah,
the thing is that I think that's the thing, you hit it right on the head there too, is those electric or diesel generators are convenient. You fill them up with fuel, roll them in. But like if you're in a remote location, like you say, where do you get the gas? Where do you get the diesel?
well, even if it's readily available, it's an expense. It's all an expense. The generators, they either have to buy or rent them, and then yeah, they got to pay for fuel in them. So if you can buy a solar charger for your tools to use on your job site, in the long run, I think that's going to save you a lot of money and hassle. So, and with cars, for sure, if we can get rid of that 30-minute charge time, everybody will want one. And I think in the movie Who Killed the Electric Car, they go into the history of how initially, well, I know I learned this from David Bloom. Initially, there was a lot of options for the vehicles, and there was a lot of car companies, and Henry Ford Ford, Chrysler, and GM kind of took over the marketplace and knocked out all the competition, and they all went with gas power. But before they did that, they had vehicles that ran on alcohol, and they had vehicles that ran on alcohol or gasoline, and they also had electric vehicles. And the electric vehicles were specifically designed for women, because in order to start the gasoline or the alcohol vehicles, you had to turn that crank. You had to manually turn the crankshaft, and of course, women being, delicate flowers, weren't too good with having to turn this heavy crankshaft. And so the electric cars were initially designed for women's use. And then it's really fascinating. It's fascinating. David Bloom explains how there was these farmers that had modified their cars so that they could run alcohol through the vehicles. They had stills, and they would produce their own alcohol from their silage or waste from their crops, and they would distill down, like corn stalks and stuff that wasn't useful in the marketplace. They would distill it into alcohol and then run it in their cars and tractors and stuff, and then they just had to make a few adjustments. When they went into the city, they would pull a lever and flip a switch, and then they'd be able to run gasoline. And then when they got back to the farm, they could switch it to alcohol. And according to David Bloom, the whole prohibition thing was not about Chicago gangsters and Al Capone. Apparently, that was a propaganda tool in order for them to prevent these farmers from using alcohol in their vehicles and force them to use gasoline. So when they brought in prohibition, they were actually going to local farms and shutting down their stills, which they weren't even using to make moonshine. They were using these stills to make alcohol fuel. And I believe it was Rockefeller, the owner of Standard Oil, that was put the big push on to have all of the vehicles on the road using his product rather than alcohol or electricity. And the movie really explains it a lot better, how they phased out electric vehicles completely. However, this whole thing about the alcohol, that's all David Bloom. I don't think they talk about that at all in the Who Killed the Electric Car movie, but he has an amazing book called Alcohol Can Be a Gas. And in that book, he describes to you how you can take an older vehicle that's carbureted and make adjustments to the timing of how the distributor cap fires. And he says that with a few $100s worth of parts from your local auto store, you can convert your vehicle to be able to run on alcohol. And then they have these alcohol fueling stations. It's huge in Brazil. In Brazil, they run a lot of vehicles on alcohol, and it's much cleaner burning but it's still burning. So
Yeah.
I prefer the electric. However, the alcohol is more efficient and less polluting, but the electric cars will be better if we can get rid of this 30-minute wait time for charging.
Can I just read you something here?
Yes.
Based on what you just said about the Rockefellers. This just came out September 22nd of this year, and it reads, I remember hearing about this, and I just thought I'd look it up, and it says the heirs of Rockefeller oil fortune divest from fossil fuels over climate change. It says they're withdrawing a total of $50 billion from fossil fuels, including from tar sand funds. So this is the Rockefeller family that is moving to already, like we said, this is happening now. This just came out in September, a month ago, and that they're going to start investing all their fortunes, which is quite a bit of money, into alternative energy, simply because they say that their investments in oil and coal have an uncertain future.
No, we are here. We will take your money and put it to good use that will help clean up our air and water and food supply and make people healthier and happier and have cleaner, greener city streets. And yeah, that's our whole mission. And our whole plan is to stop burning this stuff. But still want to use it, but we must use it wisely. All our resources, all the resources that we have available to us, our forefathers, like the Rockefeller family, the guy that started Standard Oil, I believe it was John D. Rockefeller, I believe. Yeah, they didn't really understand what the long-term effects were going to be, but now that it's being seen with all these vehicles on the road and they're all got the exhaust going out, you don't really see it going up there, but we're starting to realize what the long-term effects are. And
Yeah.
so even the people that started it are their descendants are seeing that, oh, yeah, and there's a lot of cases where the previous generations kind of plundered the resources. Like I remember with the clear cutting of the forest, and I do believe that still goes on in certain places of the world. People naively believe, and forests are a renewable resource. They're considered a renewable resource, but when you take more than what Mother Nature can replace and replenish, then we run into a problem, and that's what has been happening with oil and gas. And that's awesome that even these families that have made their fortune out of kind of plundering the resources are starting to second guess and rethink that
Listen to this.
method of operation.
Yeah, John D. Rockefeller, the founder of Standard Oil, moved America out of whale oil and into petroleum, where Stephen Heinz, president of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, said in a statement, "We are quite convinced that if he were alive today, as an astute businessman looking out to the future, he would be moving out of fossil fuels and investing in clean, renewable energy." This is coming from the president of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund. So that's both brothers that's, started Standard Oil. It's huge.
No, it started. That's the descendants. And
It's huge.
yeah, I think that that's awesome that and I've heard that Bill Gates has also been investing quite heavily in alternative energy. And if you have kids, you know that looking around, it's like we have to make some changes because yeah, the quality of our environment is not what it used to be. There's still an abundance of resources out there. However, if we continue on the path that we've been on for the last 100 years, and because of the increase in population globally, and everybody wants this Western lifestyle that we're so blessed to live. Everybody around the globe wants that.
Well, how's this grab you?
The
Check this out.
resources won't last if we continue this.
Check this out. In addition to the Rockefellers, now this is something you're going to find interesting, the World Council of Churches, which represents some 590 million people in 150 countries, also pulled its investments from fossil fuels. The move represented a turning point for a movement which began by demanding that universities purge their financial holdings of ties to the fossil fuel industry. So this is all very recent information, and I don't think a lot of churchgoers even know that this is occurring, or that there was. I'm kind of surprised there is actually a World Council of Churches, because I think most people know that the churches control a lot of the world's wealth.
Yeah, I'm not even going to go there. I'm not going
there. That's a lot of money. That's
yeah,
a lot of people, and that's a lot of money.
Not even going there. However, yeah, I think that anybody that's not living under a rock can see that.
All I'm saying is it can't be stopped.
Right.
It's too late.
Well, it's because the people want it as a whole. The whole global community wants more responsible management of resources. There's an abundance of resources. There's enough for everybody. There's enough to sustain probably 10 times the population that we have now if we manage the resources responsibly. If we continue to manage our resources the way it was done for like 100 years ago, no, they won't last very long at all. However,
Moby Dick.
It's very, very easily can be the abundance of resources, if managed properly, can very easily support many, 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 many more people than are on the planet today. I firmly believe that. But we're kind of out of time here. I'm on Eastern time. It's midnight.
I think we've covered a lot here today, and it's been a while since we've done one of these true hangouts on disruptive technology. But based on what I just read you, I think we're going to start seeing some things happen in the industry that I don't even know what to expect. But what we had talked about mainly in this hangout about the vehicles. Vehicles are such a huge part of our culture now. It's a global thing. People are booting around. Everybody's booting around in some kind of powered vehicle, because that's just the way we've decided to go. Fast, fast, fast. The faster guy finishes first and all that stuff. And so I think knowing this information now, what are we going to talk about in the next hangout?
I'm not too sure.
How about flowers?
Flowers, right? They'll disrupt everything. Yeah, no. I just what I see after you just read that information, what I see is that we are very, very, very soon going to be flooded with the investment that we have been looking for years. It's coming. It is coming. I secured a nice little investment as some seed capital to put to good use in the business. However, I see 10, 100 times more than that coming our way very, very soon. Because I truly believe that we have something that the world wants. It's simple, it's inexpensive, and it works. And
well,
I'm so excited about.
We're possessing a very disruptive technology, and we learned that when we were in Germany, and those engineers looked at our invention and said, you know, you're going to be putting out 4 times as much power as our solar panel.
Oh, I think it's going to be more than that.
Yeah, and that was a guesstimate by a couple of engineers, a couple of pros. I know you're not really down with the engineer kind of thing, but I know what I remember the moment and the looks on their faces when they were looking at it, and I seen that look in other people's faces with some other technology that I had come up with in the past regarding recycling and repairing worn thermal or thermal plastics. So I've seen that look before, and um, it's just some things that happen. You know, society just does things, and people come up with new ideas, and it changes the world. What is kind of baffling to us, and it has been baffling us for a long time, is because we have been working on something really quite revolutionary when it comes to producing electricity by using sunlight. And there's so many things that we don't know ourselves as to what's really going on with it, with what happens when you do focus a large amount of sunlight to create energy. There's some things that I'm not able to explain what's going on, and I'm sure a lot of other people aren't able to explain what's going on. I would really like to somehow focus this disruptive technology based on what we're doing and find out why is it so hard for people to take notice of something that's real, and is it the fact that it sounds too good to be true that people are
Yeah,
like, oh,
that's
I don't want
exactly
anything to
it.
do with that, it sounds a little bit too
Everybody's a skeptic,
science fiction.
and people believe. If I get that all the time. I was talking to people tonight, and yeah, people believe that what we do with Project AWOL and the Superwomen connection, it's too good to be true. It's got to be a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme or some kind of scam, and
Yeah.
all these people that I'm in this community with, that I'm here at this conference with, are telling the same story about, oh, my friends think I've lost my mind. My sister said, oh, you're going to get ripped off. You know, my uncle wants to disown me because he lost his shirt in Amway, and he's sure that the same thing's going to happen to me, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And everybody gets that because naturally, as human beings, we are skeptics. We're born skeptical, and it's a survival mechanism. Because when you were out in the darkness of the forest without electricity or resources that we have now, you had to be skeptical of every sound, every movement, everything that you saw. You had to observe it as a potential threat because your survival was at stake. And now that, you know, we're not out there being hunted by lions and tigers, unless you're in Africa in the jungle, but in North America, there's not those survival threats to the same level. We tend to look at anything that sounds too good to be true with skepticism, and it's a survival mechanism that has been ingrained in our instinctual bicameral mind.
So at the point we're at with King Sunshine Solar Systems, there should be somebody who can watch this hangout. And we've had this happen in the past where people, I don't know how many people made the suggestion of, you know what, Dragon's Den. It just didn't seem like the right suggestion for this type of technology. Is there something that we're missing of who can really look at our technology and go, I get it? Or is it something that's going to happen on one of these Google Hangouts?
No, I know. I'm a firm believer, and I've said this all along, that when you explode a light bulb or light up a TV set or something tangible that people can understand, like in our video on our website, if you go watch it, it has a voltmeter that's showing it's working, it's making electricity, but to most people, they don't they don't make the connection. But once you show it actually running a small appliance or something tangible that they can say, oh, it's making power to, you know, I can charge my cell phone or whatever the heck. Once they see it in the light of usability, I think that it'll be a no-brainer. Then people will understand. But even for myself at this point, it's
But
like not that
for the
important.
skeptic, though, that could be doctored, right?
Oh yeah, the skeptics will still look at it and go, oh, that's got to be fake or
Right.
Photoshop or whatever. However, the people that will help us in the future are going to look at it, get excited, and then they're going to want to see it in person. Because even a person that's supportive of our idea and understands our idea is still going to want to see it in person.
Well, we should
To prove
we
to
should
their
maybe
own
have
mind that,
somebody document that with audio, video when it does happen. I
right,
think.
but in the documentation, they're going to watch that and they know about Photoshop, they know about Movie Maker.
No, I mean have an actual audience to demonstrate the technology too, like a large group of people,
Well, that will help. But
so
even
that they know it's not phony.
the skeptics are going to want to come and see it themselves.
Oh yeah.
Prove that there's no hidden wires or whatever, right? Because there was a whole story. I can't remember who it was, but there was a guy and he had this free energy device and he got all these people jacked up and excited about it and he got investors for it. And this was, I can't even remember what it was, but it's a long time ago. And it turned out that he had wires under the floor.
Right. That was the pump thing. Some kind of thing that ran with a whole bunch of piping, right?
Something, right? But they found out that
Right.
and he got a whole bunch of people's money. They gave him money because they were like, oh, this is great. He's doing this with they couldn't see the wires, but the wires were hidden, right? And there's been so many cases of fraud around the planet in that kind of context that naturally people are going to be skeptical. They're going to want to see it with their own two eyes because, yeah, there's a lot of people out there that put a lot of BS out there, and it's natural for people to be skeptical. Like, you know, myself, I'm skeptical about a lot of things. Like,
why is it so hard for us to?
On 9/11, I'm completely skeptical about that whole.
Why is it so hard for us to find somebody? Like we have people working on trying to find somebody to look at the technology.
It's not hard. It's easy. It's so easy. It's just a matter of right place, right time. I think that we're closer than we've ever been to getting. We've already got a good investment, and we'll be able to take that and multiply it, and we're closer than we've ever been to.
But I mean an expert to look at what we've got so far.
No, you don't need anything. We require an expert to look at what we've got to get it to market. However, I think that as long as we just keep improving it, we'll attract the right people to us. I would just focus on improving it. Focus on improving the technology, and don't even think about other people helping. Just I would move forward with the idea that nobody's ever going to come and help us with anything. And then if somebody does show up with some sort of resources to help us progress, it'll be that much more of a blessing. Like, I would just focus on, like I said, we're perfecting the technology. So just keep making it better and better, and that's exactly what you have been doing. And you just gotta let the universe will bring the people that are going to help us to us. Saying that it's so hard to find somebody, it's just.
So you don't think it's a conspiracy?
I believe in conspiracies. However, there's good people out there that won't partake in that, and that's our whole mission with the membership site that we're going to start, is to make sure that if there is a conspiracy and somebody comes and whacks you so to try and suppress your technology, other people have the information to move forward with it. But as long, I would not even think thoughts of, oh, it's so hard to find the right people, or I'm trying to get engineers that will sign off on this, or I need, like need is such a bad word. In order to bring the product to market, we require engineers to sign off on it. However, in the meantime, we can just focus on improving it. And eventually, I have all the faith in the world that the universe will send the right people to us at the right time, that will have the right information and the right skills to help us get where we want to go and to make vast improvements on how we create and use energy. I firmly believe that the right people will come at the right time. And so they're not going to come. They will not come if you are speaking the need for it, because need is just a disaster word. You need water, food, and shelter at certain times. Other than that, it's all want. There are requirements in business for certain things, but need is not a word that anybody should use unless it's regarding water, food, and sometimes shelter. And then saying things like, it's so hard to find the right people. You're not going to find the right people when you speak that way. And that's what I'm here in Orlando learning all this stuff about how to be successful in business using these mindset principles. Everything that exists outside of nature, everything that humanity has created started here as an idea. So whatever you speak is coming from your ideas, and those ideas are what your reality is. So if you're talking about needing something, you're not going to get it. Talking about desiring something, that's a way better place to, it's more powerful to say, I desire an investor to come, than to say, I need an investor, because need comes off as desperation. And in business, desperation is not sexy. I think of a lot of business is selling. I like the analogy of dating. So if you're going to a woman and say, as a man, and be like, I need you, that's a big turnoff. If you are going to a woman with, I desire you, that's a turn on. Do you see the difference? So it's all about what you think and what you speak becomes your reality. And so it's really, really important to push out any thoughts of need and replace them with desire. And I've got to go. So do you have any final thoughts?
No, I think that sums it all up pretty much.
So yeah, if you're wanting to know about all this cool stuff I'm talking about that I've been learning here in Orlando and throughout this Project AWOL system and stuff, I will also have a link somewhere in the description of this video. You can check that out and join our team, and we'll give you some incentives, like a bonus if you get involved with Project AWOL now. That will put you in line to have a free membership site, which isn't really that big of a bonus because it's only going to cost $1 a month. But once our membership site is up and running, you will be able to access step-by-step directions on how to reproduce our patented technology for free. So click the link and check it out.
I desire some silicone tubing.
All right. We'll see what we can do about that. But I'm going to sign off here from Orlando, Florida. It's Trisha Lee saying go out there and make it a great day. And if I don't see you in the future, I will see you next week in the pasture or here on the Disruptive Technology Hangout. Subscribe so that you can watch all of our past discussions on disruptive technology, and stay tuned for our future discussions. And thank you so much for watching. And before I go, I want you all to know that I am a firm believer that in this life, anybody can be, do, and have anything that they want, or we can have everything that we want. And I'm choosing everything, and I hope you will too, because you can. So click the links and see what we're up to. Have a great day. Bye, everybody. Bye, Larry.